The stitch length is noted right here on your screen. Right now, since we have a woven medium heavy fabric selected, it recommends a 2.5 stitch length. And that is a nice size, and that is in millimeters. So if you're unsure of your millimeters, you can look down here. Here's a little chart of millimeters, and you can realize how long that will be. Now that will change based on the fabric you have selected. So if you have selected a heavier fabric, a woven a woven heavy, you're going to notice that the stitch length will actually change to a longer stitch length. So anytime I'm working on something heavier, like fleece or cuddle fabric, you're going to notice that if you just make the stitch length longer, it will help pull the fabric through without you having to push it through. And I always recommend that. Just let the machine do the work for you. So if you're still getting little tiny stitches on thick fabric, make the stitch length longer. And vice versa, if you have a finer fabric, make the stitch length shorter. So just kind of find that happy medium so all the seam really holds together when you open it apart. Now here's just a note. When you do select, I'm going to go up to the stitch menu. From row 1, select stitch number 5. That's a zigzag. You're going to notice that the stitch length shows at 4.0. Now that's not a 4 millimeter long zigzag, but that is how long it is when the whole entire zig and zag are measured out. So it's kind of like 2 stitches. So it's kind of 2 millimeters, but since there's 2 stitches, it shows you 4. Here's a great way to note that. We're going to pick a decorative stitch from row 4 and stitch number 1 and touch OK. You're going to notice this stitch says a stitch length of 28 millimeters long. And then once again, if you come down here from 0 to 28, you're going to notice that that stitch is going to be that long. So if you make it a little shorter, it shows on screen that's going to kind of compact it as well. And then show you, okay, now it's going to be 16 millimeters long in total length. So you can see the changes. But do note that sometimes that looks like quite a big number, but that is showing you the entire length of that stitch. So if you need it to fit in a certain place, you can measure it out and have it fit perfectly. Another thing that does is sometimes that it has is for density. For example, in the stitches that are in row 1, down at towards the tapering stitches, 38, 39. I'm going to go ahead and go to row 1 and 29. You're going to notice, actually that's, go 39, that's right, 39. You'll notice that there is an alt that comes up with this. The alt is actually going to have an option to change not only the length, but also the density. So you're not actually changing how long the stitches are when you touch alt, but it also will give you so you can use finer thread and close up the stitches, kind of like we did earlier with the settings on the satin stitch. So that actually is a great thing to do. But just note that if you see an alt, there's more than one thing that you can do. And that's why in your manual, it talks about both stitch length and density being used for these functions.